Hey everybody, Smart Silver Stacker here. Hope you're doing well. Welcome to the live stream. First of all, we got a lot to talk about today. Very interesting day in the gold and silver markets. But first of all, I'm trying something a little different from a tech standpoint here. So do me a favor, if you can hear me loud and clear, just put a 1 in the chat so I know that the audio is working here. And then let's delve right into what is going on with silver and commodities today, because the silver price is down, but so is a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff selling off today. So let's just take a look at trading view here. And I've got my watch list pulled up, and you can see, yeah, silver's down over 3%, but so is gold. Gold's actually down a little more than silver at the moment, which is kind of unusual. You got palladium selling off, platinum, oil. Bitcoin's down over 3%, Bitcoin down to under 95,000, and you got the dollar index down. So, a lot of things are selling off today. Okay, good. I see that everybody can hear me loud and clear. That's great. But stocks are up today. You've got hard assets, commodities taking, a pretty big hit here for a single day, and yet you've got the S&P 500, the NASDAQ sitting just below record all-time highs. You got the Dow Jones at a record high today, new record all-time high. So what is driving this? Well, we'll talk about that shortly in today's video. And the implications of this are that the bubbles in the stock market and the bubbles in crypto will be inflated to enormous proportions. Now, I got somebody in the chat here, David, asking, gold hammered, how come after a strong close Friday? All right, we'll get into that, and feel free to put any questions or comments you've got in the chat today. If you want to take advantage of the dip, you can check out sdbullion.com/deals. They got all the Black Friday deals going on right now. Some of them already sold out. Looks like there was a free 1/10 ounce Britannia along with a Britannia. That's gone. But they still got a bunch of great sales over there, so check them out if you want to take advantage of this pullback in silver. Now, the news that is driving the market action today, the big surge in stocks and the sell-off in commodities and risk-off assets, is that Trump has tapped this guy, Scott Bessent, to lead the Treasury as the new Secretary of the Treasury. So, hey, probably an improvement over Janet Yellen, I guess, but that's not setting the bar real high. But really, what this confirms is that we're going to get more of the same. So this guy, Scott Bessent, wasn't really on my radar before this announcement, but he is a protege of George Soros. So for those of you who were perhaps under some illusions that Trump is not a Wall Street insider, this pick would seem to contraindicate that, in fact, he is. So he was a partner at Soros Fund Management, and he himself is a billionaire hedge fund manager. So why are stocks up today? Well, likely because they now know that policy from the Treasury is going to be very Wall Street friendly. And this guy is a Wall Street insider of the highest order. Now, why are silver and gold and other commodities selling off? Copper, by the way, is actually in the green, which is kind of unusual. And I think that that's kind of a signal maybe that despite the fact that we're selling off today, this is probably near the bottom. But silver and gold, they're non-yielding assets. So when you see the possibility of this huge amount of cash being pushed in to pump up all these risk-on assets, stocks, for example, if you think that inflation is going to go higher, and that means that interest rates could likely go higher, then that means that you're going to want to sell your gold, your silver, your non-yielding assets. But really, I think what this means is that investors just realize that the safe havens that we look at gold and silver as, it's not going to be where you want to position yourself as we go through the next 4 years, because policy is going to divert a lot of cash into those risk-on assets, the stocks and other markets. Crypto. We're going to be the crypto capital of the world. So we've got Wall Street Insider taking over the Treasury, and we have got the crypto capital of the world. So I think we know where that cash is going to be flowing. Although Bitcoin taking a hit today. Now, Bitcoin, kind of an interesting story, because Bitcoin was just shy of 100,000. I think on the exchange I'm looking at here on TradingView, at least, it is it never actually managed to hit that. I'm trying to pull the chart up here to take a look at. Yeah, never quite hit 100,000 there. Very close, but now a big sell-off today. The dollar selling off today. I put a video out a couple days ago that said a warning for silver stackers, and that the DXY, the US dollar index, a measure of the US dollar strength against other currencies, was also looking like it was going to roll over. And it looks like both of those forecasts panned out. The reason that I was warning silver stackers was that silver, this could be the C wave in the silver price that we've been talking about. So we had the A wave correction down. Last week we saw a little bit of a recovery, a B wave. And then this could be the C wave lower. Also, the US dollar index was up against this area of strong resistance, kind of almost broke above that last week, but now looks like it is headed lower. So the dollar is down. Why is that? Well, what is this Wall Street friendly policy going to be like? I mean, it's going to be lower interest rates, right? Stocks love the idea of a protege of George Soros, a former partner at Soros Fund Management, a hedge fund manager, taking over at the Treasury, because they know this is going to be a lot of easy money. That's what's going to be coming. That's what this signals for us. Massive dollar debasement coming under the next 4 years. So I think you can expect enormous cash injections here into equity markets and also crypto. You can expect the precious metals probably to lag for a time. Now, that doesn't mean they're not going higher. I think that the precious metals will be headed higher. In fact, I think we could be at a bottom in silver here around 30 bucks. I mean, anything's possible if we do get, really strong B wave correction. It's possible that we could go lower in the silver price, but let's take a look at the chart of silver, and you'll see that it's actually at a very strong level of support right now. If I get this chart up here. So I've drawn a trend line here that starts back in February when silver was under $22. And that trend line has been moving steadily higher. I mean, sure, it's been volatile, and there have been lots of ups and downs, but still, we're at 30 bucks. 2024 has still been a pretty good year for silver. And right now, I'm going to zoom in, and you can see that we are right up against that trend line. Now, it touched that trend line a few sessions ago, back when the trend line was under $30, and silver dropped down to the high 29s. Now, retesting it again today, although trend line held support. So let me know what you think. I put a poll in the comments about whether you think that silver has bottomed out here at $30. Looks like right now, about 55% of you think that silver has not bottomed. So the majority believe that the price will drop lower. I mean, I don't know. Sometimes you just have to be uncertain. My bet is that it has bottomed, if I had to put money on it. But anything's possible here, and I don't think there's any real clear signals yet. Now listen, stock markets are going to outperform metals here, very likely. With this guy confirmed as the Treasury Secretary, we're going to see these bubbles in crypto. Stock market inflated to levels unheard of, right? Epic proportions. Trillions of dollars are going to be borrowed and spent into existence over the next 4 years. And that means that for now, it's possible the metals could continue to rise. I mean, they're in a bull market, but you could see things like, tech stocks, these just nosebleed valuation equities moving even faster. Bitcoin, too. I mean, Bitcoin has been on an absolute rip. I don't think it's done. I think it would be interesting if Bitcoin didn't ever actually break 100,000. The only reason I even consider that idea is because everybody seems so convinced that it's just going to blow through 100,000 and just continue. Now, if it does get a close above 100,000, it probably will keep going higher and higher. But the contrarian in me seems to look at this and think, well, everybody seems convinced that that's going to be how it goes. Will that really be how it plays out? Well, we will see. But Bitcoin, the other cryptos, they're caught in a speculative mania. That's how I view this. And I'm not anti-Bitcoin. I mean, I have some. I think it's fine to speculate in. Clearly, if you have speculated in Bitcoin or other cryptos, you've done very well for yourself. But I'm not really convinced that they're the long-term store of value. Or, you look at what Max Kaiser says and the other Bitcoin maximalists, and they tell us that everything is going to go to zero against Bitcoin. Like, you're going to have to fit the entire market cap of the global economy into Bitcoin. I'm not so sure that that's the case. I suppose anything's possible, but I remain skeptical of that claim. Leave me a comment down below what you think, though. Probably most of this audience is not of that view, but I know that there's some crypto bulls out there, and some of you maybe have been converted with the meteoric rise over the past couple of weeks. Now, I think that maybe the time to buy Bitcoin was a couple of weeks ago. Not so sure I'd want to be buying in at these valuations. Just kind of wait and see how it goes. But I haven't sold mine either. Just kind of sitting on it, hodling it. I view Bitcoins and crypto kind of as like a lottery ticket of sorts. But let's talk about gold and silver again. So, they're lagging, but they are on an uptrend. And silver is still holding on to that trend line. Now, despite the fact that silver has fallen, I mentioned silver's still up very significantly year over year, right? It's up, I don't know what the exact number is right now, probably about 30% or so. That's a pretty big move. And the DXY breaking down today, that's something we should all be paying attention to, because the dollar, as these bubbles are inflated, much of it will be done at the expense of the dollar. Silver will be needed for Bitcoin mining rigs. Gypsy Tree in the chat says that, yeah, that's true. One thing you can say about silver and Bitcoin is that you can have silver without Bitcoin. We did for thousands of years. Silver was the predominant money of humanity, but you can't have Bitcoin without silver. You just can't. You need it for the technology. So, ultimately, crypto, AI, any of this high-tech stuff, electric vehicles, is all very bullish for silver in the long run. I mean, we still have, nothing's changed regarding the metals. Even if Scott Bessent, a Soros insider, becomes the Treasury of the Secretary, and there's a huge amount of cash pumped into the system, driving asset valuations higher, that doesn't mean that the $36 trillion in debt is over. It doesn't mean that the $260 trillion in unfunded liabilities is gone. All it really means is that there's massive currency debasement in our future. And yes, that currency may go into speculative asset bubbles, but gold and silver remain the ultimate hedge here. And I do still believe that there will be a time, all bubbles pop, that these crazy asset valuations, it'll become clear to investors that the systemic problems that the global economy faces simply cannot be overcome by printing more cash, or in a way they can, because when you think about it, the only paths forward really in the long term with the enormous debt burden that the US has, and the rest of the world does too. I mean, it's something like 100 trillion, just the official debt, all the countries around the world. And then if you look at the unfunded liabilities, it's probably north of a quadrillion. I mean, I don't know what the exact number is, but the US alone, it's over 260 trillion. So the only way you can solve that is a total debt default, which will crash the system. And then you're really going to want to have some gold, because that'll be like Mad Max. But, that's not going to happen. What will happen, though, is that all this debt will be paid off with devalued currency, right? It's the only way you can pay off a debt of this magnitude, is to debase the currency and pay it off that way. Lots of this and that says getting absolutely decimated. Well, I think decimated would mean a 10% decline, right? Not to be pedantic, but I think that we can't quite call this a decimation of silver. I think decimation means loss of 1 in 10, right? So 10% decline. But, actually it might be off the highs. So yeah, technically, because the high was what, almost $35. So We are down more than 10% off of the highs of October. So yeah, actually, I guess it is a decimation, just not in this single day. But look, maybe you want to speculate in stocks, maybe you want to speculate in crypto. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think that honestly, there's a case to be made for having some money in those assets here. Of course, none of this is financial advice. You might think it's annoying that I always have to throw that caveat out there that it's not financial advice, but you'd be surprised. I get comments telling me that they've, followed my advice and lost money and they're angry about it. So, look, I got to mention it because you do get viewers like that, and we live in a very litigious society. So, just kind of a CYA on my part, but you got to do it. However, I will tell you, I have money in the stock market. I have money in cryptos, so it's not like I'm a silver maximalist, but I also will tell you that I would feel very remiss if I only had digital representations of wealth and no, analog backups, the stuff that has been money and will be money for thousands of years. And if you're looking for an undervalued asset here, silver remains the most undervalued asset on the planet. But that doesn't mean that it can't get more undervalued, right? Especially with a billionaire hedge fund manager in the Treasury Department. In fact, again, silver will likely underperform stocks, at least for a time, until the bubble pops. When that happens, though, when, the investors realize that the emperor has no clothes on, that'll likely happen rather quickly. And I don't know what it'll take. It might be a banking system failure. It could be crisis in the commercial real estate sector. There's still north of $1 trillion worth of loans coming due over the next year or two there. So there's ample places that we could start to really see the crack show here. And that'll likely be met by, huge ingestions of cash. And eventually it'll get bad enough that I think investors will realize what's going on. And then, you're going to see a flight into safe havens like gold and silver that it's just going to be unimaginable. But by that point, it's going to be too late to get your hands on some. And since there's really no telling when that'll happen, it's possible, given all of the pieces moving here, that this could, happen before Inauguration Day. And wouldn't that be, convenient if Trump just has to inherit a massive economic crisis? Because, if he does, we know how it's going to be met. This is a guy who signed his name to stimulus checks before. So, there's going to be a lot of stimulus, a lot of running of the printing press. I'm not even saying at this point that that's like the wrong thing. I know there's going to be the MAGA cult people in the chat who say, oh, how dare you speak ill of our, savior Trump. And it's like, there's reasons to support the guy, but fiscal policy, I don't think is really one of them. If, the first term is any evidence. And, the TDS thing, Trump Derangement Syndrome, is kind of weird. It goes both ways, right? It's like some people think the guy can do absolutely no wrong. Some people believe all the lies and propaganda about him. The truth, as usual, I think, is somewhere in the middle. Let's not get overly political here on this live stream. Now, Chertifer in the chat here, he says, silver sucks. Sentiment is low in the metals. I'm sure lower today, given this decline. But people won't be singing that tune when the unsustainable nature of our economy is revealed, right? Which is not sustainable. It will not be sustained in the long run. But, when will that time come? Who knows? But, when it does, you're going to want to have some metals because you're probably not going to be able to buy it at coin shops or online dealers unless you pay exorbitant premiums at that time. Remember what happened back in 2023? People have a short memory when the banks started to fail in March. Junk silver, 50% over spot. Silver Eagles, 100% over spot. And that was a relatively minor crisis compared to what is coming. That's just my take, but let me know what you think in the comments down below about this guy, Scott Besson, a George Soros Wall Street insider who's going to be running the Treasury. Are you happy about this? This guy doesn't have your best interests at heart. Very likely, his buddies at Wall Street are the ones who are going to benefit the most from this. In the poor and the middle class who suffer under inflation, well, they're going to get massacred. But, you can try to avoid being part of that crowd by getting into both hard assets and, I mean, maybe even jumping into these bubbles here. Stocks, I don't think they're coming down anytime soon. Yeah, they're at nosebleed valuations. They can always get way more overvalued. And the amount of money creation, which is around the corner, is going to drive them to incredible highs. Greg Manarino has been saying this for a while. He likes the JEPI and JEPQ ETFs. Again, I don't give financial advice, but those are two stock derivatives that I like. They pay a nice dividend. They seem to have a low volatility, and they give you kind of broad exposure to various aspects of the stock market. So those are two things you might want to check out. Again, none of this is financial advice. Silver's not right for everybody. The stock market's not right for everybody. Bitcoin's not right for everybody. But I can tell you that cash is also a decision, right? Sitting in cash. And so I would be, hesitant to sit in large amounts of cash at this point, just because I think that clearly what's ahead of us is dollar debasement, any way you cut it. And, Gypsy Tree says in the chat here that silver suppression will continue. Yeah, it will until it doesn't, right? Again, things that are not sustainable will not be sustained. And the thing about silver suppression is that right now we are running an enormous physical silver deficit every year, hundreds of millions of ounces. So you can't continue doing that indefinitely without much, much higher prices coming into play. Now, people are going to leave comments that say, there's no silver shortage. That's a conspiracy. I go to my store and there's lots of silver. Well, yeah, I didn't say there was a shortage. I said there's a deficit. What that means is simply that the world is consuming much, much more silver, the physical, actual silver, not the kind that people are selling today, the derivatives contracts, the futures contracts, but this stuff is getting used up. And in the world of global grid expansion, electrification, energy, shift to clean energy, battery storage, AI, all this stuff. You need incredible amounts of silver for this. And that's why we're using up so much of it. And to the extent that, the banks and the cartel, et cetera, are suppressing the price, it's going to make the ultimate explosion in silver price that much bigger because the supply is getting smaller every year. So the longer it goes on, the bigger the ultimate move higher will be. And it seems to me that the logical thing here to do is to acquire silver and commodities if you're patient, if you take the long-term view. And look, if you want a massive possibility of returns, maybe go buy some digital tokens. Although with the possibility of massive reward there comes the risk of complete loss. Those are very volatile assets. And like I said, I expect these bubbles to get bigger, but that doesn't mean there's not going to be a lot of volatility on the way up. And someday they will pop. So, if you want something that you can just buy and hold on to and not really worry about, I would view silver and gold as being those assets. If you got a lot of money in the stock market or a lot of money in crypto, that's something I feel like you got to watch, because at some point those bubbles will pop and you're going to want to exit before that happens. So again, let me know what you think in the comments down below. Thanks for everybody who smashes that like button, subscribes to the channel. Also, don't forget, you can follow me at x.com/stacksmarter, and there's a link down in the description of this video where you can sign up for my free silver and gold stacker newsletter. I would encourage all of you to do that. If you enjoyed this video, enjoyed this talk, you like these subjects that we covered today, sign up for the newsletter, subscribe to the channel, and share the video with your friends. Thanks again to everybody who watched. Stay safe and happy stacking. I will catch you next time. Smart Silver Stacker out.